So this instrument I have the privilege of playing on is a violin made by the most iconic of all violin makers, Antonio Stradivari. And this particular violin was made in 1724, which in fact was made during the later stage of Stradivarius' golden period, where he made his best instruments. And it was also made when he was at the age of 80 years old, which I find quite amazing that absolute perfection like this could be made from someone of that age. Now, I've always had a fascination with Stradivari since I was a little boy. When I learnt the violin when I was 5, I always knew the name Stradivari and, of course, a Stradivarius violin. And I always had wanted to play. It'd been a dream to play on one. And for many years, I would imagine what that time would be like and what that moment in time would be like to be in the same room with it or just hear it for the first time. And so a few years ago, I had the opportunity of playing on my first Stradivari, and it was you might say, a religious experience. It was quite special. And I remember feeling those emotions immediately. So it's an unspoken feeling. It's something you feel in your soul, where as you're playing, the notes literally start to react with your body and your frequencies. And this instrument had that exact effect. It's a very personal, very private experience, very special. And I've really experienced that with this, and it's been super special to play on this and learn from this instrument as well. Antonio Stradivari was born in 1644 and made his instruments in Cremona, Italy. It's a beautiful place, and when I've always gone to visit, I love dropping by the Museo de Stradivari in Cremona, and it's a beautiful experience to be surrounding yourself with all the history. It's almost a religious experience being there, feeling the energy of all these different makers and, of course, Stradivari himself. One thing that's quite amazing about his making, his interpretation of geometry and design for the violin has always served as a conceptual model for violin makers for, I think, more than 250 years. And that is something to be marveled at, because still to this day, modern makers look up to him to try and make their own violins and try and recreate that magic and that masterful making technique. So Stradivari, he built instruments that were for conditions unknown to him. So really, he was very much ahead of his time to make a violin that could overpower brass, woodwind, full orchestras, and also in a modern age, a modern band, guitars. And so having such a violin with so much power and projection, this is something that was really sought after by other makers, wanting to try and emulate that tone, that spirit, that projection. And playing on such a thing now, on such a beautiful instrument, it really is certainly a privilege